Hey, this is Patrick Smith here at the West Virginia Game Developer Expo 2017, and I'm here with our keynote speaker, Justin McElroy, co-founder of Polygon, podcaster with my brother, and me, correct? Monster Factory, like a slew of titles behind your name. So I guess the first question would be, Justin, how did you get into the industry? Because I'm guessing it wasn't a straight trajectory.
No, I started out trying to write freelance for whoever would have me. I wrote for a bunch of magazines. That used to be a thing. Official PlayStation magazine.
I still get Game Informer.
Yeah, well, it's got games stopped to pay for it, but
sure.
But I started working freelance for them, applying for whoever would have me. I offered to do really bad games. I would review the bad games so they didn't have to. And I did a lot of that kind of work for years, trying to do freelance and applying for every job I could and not getting it. But also writing for myself just to try to make my craft better. And then around 2007, I got hired freelance at a site called Joystick. That used to be AOL's video game site. And I had actually gotten turned down for a job there previously, but 6 months later, they had somebody quit and they remembered my application. So I got hired there, and from there, I eventually worked there full time. And then I co-founded Polygon in 2012. We launched, I think it was like October 2012, so it's like 5 years old now. But that was my trajectory. It was mainly just hustle and talking to whoever would listen and writing for whoever would have me. So.
Well, some notes I thought about when you were talking about there is they did remember you. You tried to get hired on, and 6 months later they remembered your application. So, as opposed to someone not calling you back or anything, you didn't burn that bridge. Mm-hmm. You didn't be like, "Well, I don't need them anyway."
Right.
So like you did stand out. And then I think you even mentioned in the keynote that you went ahead and even after the fact you sent a review in, just like an unsolicited review. Hey, remember me from 6 months ago? And they go, "Oh yeah."
I thought it was something they might want to write about. It was this goofy piece about a full motion video Gallagher game, and I said like, "Hey, you guys want to blog about this?" And that was what reminded them about my application. Was that
right?
So, yeah, it was pretty lucky, but it was also because I had spent a lot of time working on my craft and trying to get as good as I could at writing.
Okay, so the persistence did pay off. Persistence paid off there.
Actually.
And so you're a Huntington native. You're still a Huntington person, and I know you talked in there about like what it could take to stay here. For someone who goes, oh well, he's the co-founder of Polygon. Explain to them how long it took to get there, because it's not a one day I'm doing nothing, the next day I say, I'm throwing up my hands, I'm going to be in the gaming industry.
I started writing about video games when I was 15 years old, and I worked at it for years and years and years, trying to get better and trying to make inroads with people, because I knew that I wasn't going to move to a big city, and the only option I had was trying to get as good as I possibly could. And like I'm not saying I'm great now, because that would be pretty self-aggrandizing, but I worked really hard, and I scraped and pushed for every sort of opportunity I could get. So for me, that was the number one thing, was trying to find those opportunities as they came up and being ready for them, because I had practiced a lot and worked on my voice and my craft and my tone and stuff. But it was a full, 10 years before I got to the point where I was co-founding a site. It was 8 years before I got to a point where I was even had a full-time job. I mean, it took a long time to get there. And then the only thing that I can say is, because of that, it's like, start now. Like, there's nothing that keeps you from working on this stuff at home. Like, all the resources you need to learn how to do a lot of stuff are available to you if you just start working at it. Like, go start working on that degree. Start working on writing something. Like, work on something while you're getting your degree, But start hustling now, because I got to the point that I eventually got to because I had worked at it for a long time and tried to find those opportunities for many years.
You didn't wait for it to come to you. In the meantime, in the dry times, you were still working, refining your craft, even though nobody was knocking on your door, because you wanted to make sure that when they did knock on your door, when the opportunity presented itself, you were ready.
Well, and living here where there's not a super vibrant game development scene, that is going to be the only option. Opportunity will not come find you. Like, you have to go out and find it. and you have to be ready for it when it comes, when you do find it.
So we hit upon a couple of those key areas, but if someone was thinking about trying to get into the industry, obviously don't wait for it to find you. Start looking for it in your moments of free time. Be trying to go ahead and work on stuff. Seems like a reoccurring common theme Josh and I try to tell to our gaming students is if you don't leave our classes and go home and want to tinker and work on something, this may not be the job for you, because to be in the gaming industry, it needs to be more than a job to you. It needs to be something you wanted to do for free anyway, because for a while you're going to be doing it for free. So any extra advice you would have for somebody besides, staying persistent, making sure it's something you already love, because when you do get that opportunity, if you don't have a portfolio because you weren't doing it on the side, you're not going to have something to show somebody.
Right. There's always, especially in something that a lot of people want to be involved with, just like try to keep in mind that if you don't want to work on it in your free time, there is somebody else who is going to work on it in their free time that is more than happy to do that because they love it. And like that, and you're absolutely right. I love what I do, so I feel like I don't work very hard because I really like what I do. But it took a long time to get there, and and I loved what I did though before I got paid for it. I just like to do it, and for me, that made all that working and preparing like a lot easier because it was something that I was passionate about. And I think if you're doing that, then it's hard to go wrong. Even if you never get a job in it, like even if you're never doing it full time, if you're doing it for yourself and you're making stuff you're proud of, then I think you're a success.
And that should be the goal first and foremost.
Yeah.
You need to do it as if you're not going to get paid for it, to where when you get paid for it, it's even sweeter.
For sure.
Last question, any last minute advice you'd have for people if they're saying to themselves, I want to stay in this area, I want to do game design, it's not a big hotbed around here, advice they could have to try to make themselves get some exposure?
Make unique things that only you can make. Don't be another Me Too. Make something that sets you apart. And maybe it has to do with the culture. You get a unique culture that is here that you're sort of drawing on that a lot of people don't have access to. But I think that's the number one thing is like I didn't find success until I found what I was the best at and focused on that really hard. And I didn't kind of float around between different things. I knew like this is the writing I do, this is what I'm good at, and this is the only thing I'm going to do. And I think that like trying to find those niches for yourself is the best path to success.
Okay. And I know it's the last question, but one comment I'll make, and you're more than welcome to chime in on, when you said that, it made me think about how you do stuff at Polygon, you do videos with your brother, you do a podcast with your brothers, you do a podcast with your brothers and your dad. So I imagine as a content creator, you find fulfillment in all those areas, but I would also think that way when you do meet somebody and they know you, they're not going to say, I know you from this one thing. You can get a much wider audience because someone's going to know you from the podcast. Someone else is going to know you from Monster Factory. Someone else is going to know you from Polygon. So I'd imagine if you have passions that go everywhere, be that content creator, and you're going to have a much bigger pool of people because you're going to have more pools than just one.
I just make the stuff that interests me. I don't know. I make the stuff that I think is neat and the stuff that I think is cool, and that takes me in different directions sometimes. But if you're doing the stuff that you love, then I don't think you can go wrong, and I think that shows. I think that I think you see it with musicians a lot where that passion disappears and you can tell it's not there, and people can pick up on that. Like I think you just have to make the stuff that you're really interested in.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for the interview.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for being the keynote speaker. We appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, man.